From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ijoma Unyato.
Hello and welcome. President Muhammadu Buhari gives approval for easing of restrictions on religious gatherings effective from Tuesday. Schools to remain shut as curfew now starts from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Domestic flights to resume from June the 21st, with the aviation minister listing out new protocols for airlines before takeoff. After controversy over testing and record of COVID-19 in Kogi State, Governor Yahya Bello orders lockdown in Kaba Bunu local government area. University of Benin student protests against rape and murder of their colleague as Inspector General of Police deploys forensic experts to investigate the matter. And US President Donald Trump condemns nationwide protests over George Floyd's murder, calls on governors to dominate their states against violent attacks. Plus, we'll have business, sports, news from Abuja, the FCT, and later on news from our studios in London.
On business news tonight, Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index drops to 43.3 in the month of May, according to latest readings by FBN Quest.
On sports news tonight, Manchester United FC agree loan extension with Shanghai Shenhua for Nigerian forward Odion Igalo.
And from Abuja, Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki visits President Muhammadu Buhari ahead of state governorship primary as court stops state government from arresting and prosecuting party chairman Adams Oshomole.
Nigeria has now entered a new phase of the ease of lockdown as the federal government announces relaxation of restrictions on places of worship, provided all health protocols issued by the government are obeyed. The chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 made the announcement at the daily briefing of the task force in Abuja. Now, while the restrictions on worship centers are relaxed, the task force maintains that the ban on interstate travel remains. All schools are also to remain closed.
The chairman of the Presidential Task Force.
It's the first news conference by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 for the month of June, which also coincides with the last day of the extension of the ease of lockdown announced by President Muhammadu Buhari.
Members of the Presidential Task Force.
The task force chairman announces the relaxation of some of the restrictions, as well as the extension of some of the existing bans in the second phase of the ease of lockdown.
The Presidential Task Force submitted its recommendations, and the President has approved the following for implementation over the next 4 weeks, spanning from tomorrow, the 2nd of June, to 29th June 2020, subject to review. Ban of gatherings of more than 20 people outside of a workplace. B, relaxation of restriction on places of worship based on guidelines issued by the Presidential Task Force and protocols agreed by the state governments. Ban on interstate travels, except for movement of agriculture, produce, petroleum products, manufactured goods, and essential services.
The national coordinator makes further clarifications.
Effective from tomorrow, Tuesday, the 2nd of June 2020, the easing of the lockdown will be characterized by the following. 1. The nationwide curfew will remain in place, but the timing of this will be reduced to 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. There will be full opening of the financial sector, with banks now allowed to operate normal working hours 5 days a week.
The Chinese medical team have been smuggled out.
Unlike previous news conferences, the task force turned down questions outside the address of the national chairman, including the question about the Chinese medical team.
Please, for today, all other questions should be stepped down. Please concentrate solely on the address of the chairman and the elaboration made by the national coordinator.
The education minister makes an appeal to citizens who are eager to resume schools.
I am really apologizing to the rest of my Nigerian brothers and sisters that really we had wanted and would love to open schools as soon as we can. But this is the 1st of June, and the numbers from the experts are not telling us to do so.
Nigeria saw a spike in the number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 during the 3 weeks of the first phase of the gradual ease of lockdown, as the country currently has over 10,000 cases, making many to wonder if the decision to further ease the lockdown is the right thing to do.
For now, we have questions.
Meanwhile, domestic flights are to resume at the nation's airports beginning from Sunday, June the 21st. The Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, who announced this at today's briefing of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, said the resumption of flights will be based on the implementation of the approved protocols for safe operations of the airlines. The minister also explained that the period between now and the resumption date is to enable the operators adhere to all necessary industry regulations, without which they cannot take to the skies.
We have looked at all the things that we need to do to be able to open. They are broadly divided into two broad classifications. The first is that there is a technical aspect of it, and then there is a health side of it. On the technical aspect, there are the aircraft themselves that have been parked for about 3 months, not being run. We have to ensure that within now and that time, these airplanes are good and safe to fly. On the health side, there is how the passenger will ensure that he has wearing a mask, perhaps a face shield, physical distancing, clean surfaces, getting the airports back to accept this new culture, new way, new system of travel all over again.
For more on decisions taken at the PTF briefing regarding the easing of COVID-19 lockdown restrictions, we'll be joined by a Professor of Public Administration, Isaac Obase, but we'll do that a bit later on in the bulletin. Now, as the battle to contain COVID-19 continues, Lagos is taking steps towards a full reopening of the economy. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who made the announcement, explained that although the reopening will not be rushed, the government is concerned about making the economy run again, as it cannot continue to keep people's businesses locked down. He says, for us, it's not to say they should reopen fully tomorrow or any time. There's been a process guiding the reopening. We will be mandating LASEPA and the Safety Commission to begin the enumeration process, and the agencies will be communicating with all relevant businesses and houses in the days ahead. The governor cautioned that the decision to begin reopening the state's economy must not be misinterpreted as a license for full opening. In the meantime, a total lockdown has been imposed in Kaba local government area of Kogi State for an initial period of 2 weeks, beginning from tomorrow. Governor Yahya Bello announced the restriction of movement at a press conference in Lokoja, the state capital, despite his insistence that the state has not confirmed any case of COVID-19. The index case announced by the NCDC has been identified by a family member as the chief imam of Kaba, Sheikh Ahmad Abubakar Ejibuno.
The face-off between the Kogi state government and the NCDC rages on. No thanks to the agency after declaring Sheikh Ahmed Abubakar Ejibuno and one of his sons positive for COVID-19.
Our people.
Governor Yahya Bello insists Kogi is COVID-19 free, but the NCDC wants the government to allow it carry out some tests to ascertain his claim. In a state address, Governor Bello lamented the ongoing feud between his state and the NCDC officials, but ordered the people of Kababunu Local Government Council to allow for adequate tests to be done during the 2-week lockdown.
Imposing this particular lockdown in Kababunu Local Government is very painful, but we have to take the decision as a result of this purported allotment. in order to clear the air. Kogi State remain COVID-19 free.
Governor Bello also issued directives to the Federal Medical Center Management in Lokoja concerning the health workers who came in contact with the 2 cases while assuring residents in the affected local government of the lockdown food palliatives.
The incident management team, led by the Honorable Commissioner of Health, shall move from door to doors in Kababunu local government to not only deliver palliatives, but to collect samples massively.
Meanwhile, the Nigeria Medical Association is seeking the president's order for random testing in Kogi to determine the true status of the state and put an end to the raging controversy.
The president should compel the governor of Kogi State for health workers to have access to the people. You cannot hide diseases. Even if there is none, let's have evidence that there is none. They should test, it doesn't matter. Some of the things we do is to bring out evidence.
Prevention is better than cure, and the affected communities in the lockdown will do well to adhere to all protocols required to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in Kogi State.
As Nigeria advances into a new phase of the gradual ease of lockdown, there are current realities which may not be going away anytime soon. And these include the socio-economic effects of the government's decisions in their fight against COVID-19. Our correspondent, Dare Do, reports.
With over 10,000 COVID-19 cases, Nigeria is taking stock and reviewing its fight against the virus.
Evaluating the economic and social aspects of the society.
But how has the country fared so far? Since the ease of lockdown on May the 1st, the number of cases have spiked, with the country recording more than 7,000 cases in 4 weeks. On the flip side, more people have recovered compared to the fatal cases. The medical crisis is also presenting some socio-economic implications, staring government and the people in the face. In Lagos, the effect is visible in public transportation.
We don't normally carry the few number of the passenger will carry, so we actually increase the price of the fare. So and the passengers, they normally complain.
The rush and the hike in transport fare are also indications of how COVID-19 is impacting commercial activities in the state.
This thing has affected not just price of transportation, it has affected a lot of things, commodities, anything, name it, what is it? In fact, some days ago, in fact, things that are not supposed to be affected, things that you don't have to go to the market to buy. Okay, for instance, you want to blend pepper. These people are not buying fuel. Okay, if you are buying fuel, they are not buying at high price. The price of fuel has reduced. Yet they are still increasing the prices of things like that. You want to blend pepper, somebody's telling you double the price, and the next thing you hear is, everything don't increase.
The government says science and data will determine the cautious advancement into the second phase of the eased lockdown for the next 4 weeks. But the numbers of the last phase do not seem to have helped much in shaping public perception about the virus. Dari Idowu, Channels Television News.
Definite hearing of the suit filed by Senator Dino Melai challenging the passage of the Infectious Diseases Control Bill 2020 has been fixed for June the 15th, 2020. While adjourning the case, Justice Ijoma Ojukwu of the Federal High Court in Abuja advised parties not to take any action that could jeopardize the matter before the court. At the hearing, Senator Malai's counsel told the court that some respondents had served his client notices of preliminary objection to which he needed to respond. In part 2, after the break, we'll take a look at the implication of the ease of the lockdown on religious activities, and we'll be joined by a Professor of Public Administration, Professor Isaac Obasi. That's coming up in a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. Reminder of our top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari gives approval for easing of restrictions on religious gatherings effective from Tuesday. Schools to remain shut as curfew now starts from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Domestic flights to resume from June the 21st, with the aviation minister listing out new protocols for airlines before takeoff. After controversy over testing and record of COVID-19 in Kogi State, Governor Yahya Bello orders lockdown in Kababunu local government area. University of Benin students protest against rape and murder of their colleague as Inspector General of Police deploys forensic experts to investigate the matter. And US President Donald Trump condemns nationwide protests over George Floyd's murder, calls on governors to dominate their states against violent attacks. Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Do subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android, Fire TV, and Roku as well. With the President's approval of the review of the next phase of the ease of the lockdown, many are looking to understand the guidelines and protocols that will guide this process in the states where they live. To discuss this further, I'm being joined live from Abuja by a Professor of Public Administration in the University of Abuja, Professor Isaac Obasi. Thanks a lot for joining us on the News at 10.
Thank you, Joma.
Now, looking at what the PTF said today, they talked about relying on science, data, and the experience of other nations. But when you look at the experience elsewhere, there's a peak and then there's a reduction in numbers before you see a gradual opening. We're opening up, even though our numbers are going up. Do you think this is the best?
There's a dilemma. And that dilemma, I think, is agonizingly worrisome. Ordinarily, we shouldn't go the way we are going right away. But what obtains in our country is a little bit different, too, from what obtains in other countries. The level of stimulus package and support, palliatives, is quite different in some of these other countries than in ours. So the extent to which you can extend the lockdown, much longer, puts a lot of pressure and tries to drive the patience of people to a limit that is beyond them to accommodate. So there is that rising tension between life and livelihood, and also puts a lot of pressure on policymakers about what options to go. I had thought today, in my opinion piece today in Sunday at Post Media, that actually government should have adopted a flexible policy further. They've been adopting sectorial flexible policy, which I support, and I thought they would have extended that to educational institutions as they did now to churches and mosques. So what do I mean by that? You adopt a policy segmentation where you give certain allowances for some to start, but in a gradual form. I give an example. In educational sector, I've suggested, for instance, or expected today, that the private education sector across levels should have been given permission to start. They have the capacity to maintain and comply to the etiquette, social distancing and hygiene etiquettes. They are able to do that. Classrooms, class sizes are lower, they're smaller than public universities. Even in some other countries, this principle has been applied. I expected that to happen, but I also expected that across the sectors, exam classes should go on, because that will not congest the school facility, infrastructural facility, and we'll be able to maintain social distancing in the exams that are being taken. If you are taking WAEC, it happens at the same time in public and private sector. So two will go. if you want to apply the policy of 2 shifts system, you can say, okay, private sectors, you are in a bid to do that. You have smaller classrooms. Can you do that? If you can do that, open. Those that can meet that condition, let them stay if they are not exam classes.
Well,
I expected that segmentation. If you come to churches and mosques, fine. People have been itching to go to church. I am an ardent morning mass goer, but I don't. I know the Nigerian behavior until I see it change. I don't see Nigerians in respecting social distancing the way we want in the churches. But if they are able to do what you observed in a church in Siwa yesterday by 8 o'clock, they were able to hold masses in 5 places. But even at that, people were still crowding to the main chapel, the main church premises, which was televised live. So Nigerian mentality is yet still not have changed. Business as usual rules drives them. You find a father telling people right in the church, put your mask. I had my mask here. I'm only told I should remove it because identification is important if I'm talking. That's what I'm told. Otherwise, my first mask is here. The priest was announcing repeatedly. People did not. Some covered their mouth and left their nose. And in the church or church premises or worship centers, people talk. People talk. They don't keep quiet. And the risk is high. It's a crowd-pulling arena. So somebody has said today, I picked it before coming here, that if you allow churches where children will go, parents, old parents will still come, whom you are fearing that let them not be infected. Why then the same children you said don't go to school? The minister appears to me a little bit idealistic. I am a supporter of the policies they have rolled out, but there is idealism in it. They are not a little bit, pragmatic. You needed to know that schools must start. You begin to test. You start with private schools, and then public schools will come later. And you prepare for the public schools through infrastructure. And through what Lagos State has announced just the other day, 2,000 teachers to be employed. This is preparation for the opening up. So let's see these things happen, and you begin to gradually open up. What government announced today is realization. I've combed media houses, or many of them are even the one facing me in the channels now, lifting restrictions. It is realization. The restrictions are there. The churches and mosques must follow PTF guideline. Secondly, they must follow the guidelines agreed by the states. Which means if the state rolls out a guideline that a church in my state should follow, they should follow it. So it's not just lifting the lockdown and everybody troop and do the business as usual worship. This is the
Professor
time
of
to
Public
worship
Administration,
God in
I'm afraid I'm going to have to come in
spirit.
there, Prof. Yes, the guidelines are extensive, and state by state, they will look at them. Unfortunately, I have to come in there, Prof. Apologies for that. Of the University of Abuja, Professor Isaac Obasi. Thank you for sharing those thoughts with us on the news at 10 tonight. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Joma. Good night.
The Lagos State COVID-19 response has received 5 ambulances and 200 million naira from the BUA Foundation, a philanthropic arm of one of Africa's leading food and infrastructure conglomerates. The chief operating officer of BUA Group, Mr. Chimaobi Madukwe, presented the ambulances and check to the wife of the Lagos State Governor, Mrs. Ibijoke Sanwo-Olu. While commending the state government's effort at curbing the pandemic, Mr. Madukwe explained that the initiative is part of BUA Group's corporate social responsibility.
A quick response to the containment of the coronavirus comes in cash in kind. 5 ambulances and 200 million naira donated to Lagos State, the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria, by BUA Group in an effort to deal with the increasing number of cases. The interior of the ambulance is equipped with oxygen dispensing equipment, patient trolley, and other needed items.
We wish to present this check of 200 million naira to the Lagos State government. And in addition to that, we are also presenting 5 ambulances to the Lagos State government in support of the efforts, the commitment, the focus that the Lagos State government has brought to the rollback of this COVID pandemic.
And the state government is grateful for such a gesture.
We thank you so much. We don't take this for granted. It's come at a crucial time when we have this COVID.
This donation could not have come at a better time than now that the state needs all the support from corporate bodies.
BUA Group, as a responsible corporate citizen and of course operating in Lagos State here, we feel that it behoves on us to support the government of Lagos State and the people of Lagos State, because these ambulances are going to be put to use in order to ensure that the people of Lagos State get the best medical attention.
BUA Group specializes in production of cement, sugar, marketing of iron and steel, agricultural and industrial chemicals, among others. Its mission is to provide high-quality products and services to its customers with a focus on total quality management.
When the news at 10 returns, we have more updates on COVID-19, plus manufacturing PMI drops to 43.3 in May. That's according to latest readings by the FBN Quest. That'll be on business. Do join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. Let's go to Abuja now. Here's Linda Akigbe. Linda?
Hello, Ijoma. Welcome to Abuja. Now, after months at loggerheads, Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki says he will leave no stone unturned to make peace with the national chairman of the party. Governor Obaseki expressed his intention to mend fences when he visited the Aso Rock Villa to present his form seeking re-election to President Muhammadu Buhari. Mr. Obaseki's visit comes ahead of the APC governorship primaries scheduled for this month.
It's unfortunate that he's taking the position he has taken. I believe that he was misguided, well, not properly guided. And as governor, I'm his governor, and it is my responsibility to seek peace for my state and with all my citizens. I will continue to strive for peace. I will continue to pursue peace for the sake and interest of our people. I'm open. I have always said that, that we should talk about how to move things forward. We cannot turn back the hands of the clock. So there are certain things we just must accept and see how we can move forward and build on, where we are. So the relationship is still frosty. I'm doing all I can, doing my best to try and make it warm, trying to make, just for the sake of Edo people, whatever it will take to have peace, so whatever it will take not to lose lives in Edo, I am committed. The consensus is that we have done well as a government, and that people would like us to continue with the laudable programs and policies which we have undertaken over the last 3 years.
This part, the APC National Chairman, Comrade Adams Oshomole, insists the party will go ahead with the direct method of voting during its June 22nd, 2020 governorship primary in Edo State. He was fielding questions from journalists shortly after meeting behind closed doors with 7 governors of the party. Meanwhile, a federal high court sitting in Abuja has restrained the Edo State government from arresting and prosecuting the All Progressives Congress National Chairman, Comrade Adams Oshomole. The panel of inquiry set up by the state government had, in a white paper, indicted Mr. Oshomole for corruption and recommended his arrest and prosecution. However, Oshomole had, in an ex parte motion through his lawyer, Ehioje West Idahosa, asked the court to stop the action recommended by the white paper. After listening to parties in the case, Justice Ahmed Mohammed ordered the respondents to stay action pending the hearing and determination of the issue of jurisdiction. The case has been adjourned to June 17, 2020 for hearing. The family of the raped and murdered University of Benin undergraduate Vera Waila Omozua wants the perpetrators of the acts which allegedly led to her death to be apprehended and made to face the law. Some young Nigerians who embarked on a peace walk to the State Police Command headquarters in Benin City, the Edo State capital, also demanded justice for Uwa. Our correspondent Jessica Ologboshere reports.
The chant is the message this group of young men and women, students, social media influencers and relations have for society as they take their pain at the alleged rape and killing in a church of Waila Omozua, a 100-level student of the University of Benin, onto the streets in Benin City, the Edo State capital. At their destination, the State Police Command headquarters, they make their demands known.
What are the measures being done? Are we ensured that we will not just die like that?
The police assured them that justice would be served.
And the arrangement is that the fingerprint that is be lifted is to be cross-checked with NOBAN, this BVN. So we are convinced that we will get the principal suspect arrested.
A sibling of the late Waila also made an allegation the police said was new and would be looked into.
The Nigerian police said they needed mobility money first. They need money before they can do justice for the death of my sister. They needed mobility money.
At the late Waila's family home in the Ikoba Hill area of the state capital, sad faces are all around, utter dejection evident. Her mother, recalling the experience, seeks answers from relevant authorities.
The eye swell up for this eye side, this side, thick blood thing. Look and say, my person beat my pikin like this. Wait, be say, not be say a thief. He go inside as go read, church go read. That night I cry. Cry as I call and reach, put mouth for ear. They call and say, oh, who do this one to you? Not talk. May government beg. May they help me find who put this hot water for my body.
Waila's father, however, wants not only justice for his late daughter, but protection of others as well.
The government should think of other people who are not fully victim. I'm already a victim. I don't want other people to be a victim.
The late Waila Omozua was said to, as in the past, have come to this church on Wednesday, the 27th of May, 2020, to study, but was subsequently allegedly raped and brutally injured. She died in hospital on Saturday, the 30th of May. Jessica Ologboshere, Channels Television News.
Away from that tragic incident in Benin City, Seplat Petroleum Development Company PLC, a leading Nigerian independent oil and gas company listed in both the Nigerian Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange, has paid a dividend of $59 million to its shareholders. At the company's 7th annual general meeting held in Lagos, Seplat board chairman Mr. ABC Ojiako said the company plans to position itself for an ambitious next phase of growth.
This is not a poorly attended meeting as the picture here may depict. It's the 7th annual general meeting of Seplat Petroleum Development Company PLC, an indigenous oil and gas company listed on both Nigeria Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange.
2019 annual report and accounts.
COVID-19 prevention guidelines have necessitated the almost proxy meeting. Save for the new gathering arrangements, every other component of an AGM are intact when the meeting gets underway. As the notices read and carried, the company chairman speaks to the successful year-end 2019.
I would like to inform distinguished shareholders that Seplat has continued to work to make sure that we deliver on the promises we've given to our stakeholders.
Electronic systems we've all gone, and so the voting was electronically done and carried.
I take it that the report has been unanimously accepted and received by the shareholders.
Just so you know, the sheer number of people in attendance doesn't say anything negative about the strength and size of the company. Seplat announces $59 million dividend payout to shareholders.
In terms of production, our production has not reduced because of this exercise. So even during the pandemic, our field operations have continued unhindered, and therefore production has in fact increased. You will see by the end of the year that our production for 2020 will actually be higher than our 2019 production.
A bit about how they get things done successfully is a growth strategy which is underpinned by a clear financial strategy that aims to maintain a strong, well-funded balance sheet with sustainable operational cash flow.
As of today, we are producing about 30% of gas to power in Nigeria and still growing. We believe that as a Nigerian company, we have a commitment to play our role in making sure that this power infrastructure problem is solved.
Seplat says it will continue to maintain strict financial discipline over investment decisions, while also embedding high standards of corporate governance and transparency.
And that's all from Abuja. Now to Anne Wanwodo for business news.
Thank you, Linda. Welcome to Business News. The Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index for the month of May has slipped from 45.8 to 43.3, and that's according to figures from FBN Quest. And that data compiled by NOI polls shows that a very small number of companies reported an improvement in the month under review due to the lockdown and the related decline in forex availability. On a 12-month move-in basis, the headline index retreated from 52.1 to 51.5 in the month of May. The data project that there could be little activity this month due to the easing of restrictions. The Petroleum Product Price and Regulatory Agency has further reduced the pump price of premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, by 2 naira from 123 naira 50 kobo price it announced in May to 121 naira 50 kobo per litre for the month of June. In a circular released today, the downstream regulator also fixed the price band of petrol sold to depot owners at between 102 naira 13 kobo and 104 naira 13 kobo per litre, while the price sold to retail outlet owners is put at between 109 naira 78 kobo to 111 naira 78 kobo per litre. While the domestic stock market has started this month on a positive note, it has gained at least 25 billion naira at the close of business today. Let's hear more from Chimezie Obiwagu.
Thank you and welcome to the Stock Market Report. It was a moderate performance today at the equities market, and that can be seen as a good way to start a new week and a new month. All the indices were in the green except the insurance sector. The oil and gas was flat. But look at the banking sector. The way it started off today is an indication of better performance as we go further into the week. Yes, Stanbic IBTC recorded a huge loss today, down by 9.22%, but that stock is expected to experience some price reversal as early as tomorrow, because what has played out here is simply demand and supply, nothing more. These movements on the sectoral indices saw the all-share index up by 0.19%. In 4,775 deals, a total of 253.3 million shares were traded, worth 2.64 billion naira. The outlook no doubt looks good as businesses gradually come back and oil prices bounce back. That would add a lot of value to the market. And for traders, the temper of the game today may likely increase tomorrow. And that was the Stock Market Report. I'm Chimezie Obiwagu.
Thank you, Chimezie. While it's the same positive picture for some of the world leading stock markets, investors are still reacting to China's improved PMI data and the easing of lockdown measures across major economies around the globe. Let's take a look at the closing figures for today. That's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Joma.
Thanks a lot, Anne. Still ahead on the news at 10, President Trump condemns nationwide protests over George Floyd's murder, calls on governors to dominate their states against violent attacks. Do join us again. Welcome back. U.S. President Donald Trump has denounced governors across the U.S. this week, urging them to authorize heavier-handed tactics to quell protests that have raged across the country for 6 nights. Here's Simon Pusey with more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London for your international news around the world in 5. US President Donald Trump has condemned the latest violence in cities across the United States after nearly a week of protests that was sparked by the death of African-American George Floyd. On Twitter, he turned on his opponent in the next election, Joe Biden, after he was pictured at one of the protests saying, "Sleepy Joe Biden's people are so radical left that they are working to get the anarchists out of jail and probably more. Joe doesn't know anything about it. He is clueless, but they will be the real power, not Joe. They will be calling the shots. Big tax increases for all, plus." Curfews have been imposed in nearly 40 cities in an attempt to suppress rioting, but people have largely ignored them. Riot police have clashed with protesters in New York, Chicago, Philadelphia and Los Angeles, firing tear gas and pepper bullets to try to disperse the crowds. Police vehicles were set on fire and shops were raided in several cities. The police weren't always battling demonstrators, though. Here in New York City, officers got on one knee in solidarity with protesters. There were also rallies in London, Berlin and Toronto, where people marched on government buildings calling for justice for George Floyd and an end to racial discrimination. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe has summoned its US ambassador on Monday over remarks by a senior American official accusing the Southern African country of stirring anti-racism protests over the death of George Floyd. In an interview with ABC News, US National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien referred to Zimbabwe as a foreign country using social media to stoke unrest and sow discord. Zimbabwe's foreign ministry said US Ambassador Brian Nichols had been called to explain O'Brien's remarks. The number of coronavirus cases worldwide has reached 6 million as the disease has rapidly spread across Latin America. Confirmed COVID-19 infections in Latin America have surged past 1 million, with Brazil leading the pack. Despite an increase in cases, Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has continued to defy social distancing recommendations. The country is preparing to ease quarantine restrictions, despite warnings from public health experts who say the worst is still to come. History has been made as 2 NASA astronauts have safely boarded the International Space Station after docking their SpaceX Crew Dragon craft.
Falcon stage separation confirmed.
This launch by the private rocket company SpaceX has marked the first time that a private entity, rather than NASA, has carried Americans into orbit. It is also an important milestone for reusable rockets that SpaceX pioneered to make spaceflight less costly and more frequent. The tropical storm Amanda has killed at least 14 people in El Salvador as heavy rains have caused floods, landslides and power outages. El Salvador President Nayib Bukele has declared a 15-day state of emergency to cope with the effects of the storm, which he estimated to have caused $200 million worth of damage. India has partially restored train services amid reports of chaos and overcrowding at some stations. At least 145,000 people travelled on trains on Monday as the country starts to reopen after a prolonged lockdown. 200 trains will now start operations, up from the existing 30 that are currently running. But maintaining social distancing and cleanliness is proving to be a difficult task. India's mammoth railway network usually carries 25 million passengers every day. Near the Somali capital of Mogadishu, at least 6 people have been killed after a minibus was hit by the blast from a roadside bomb. The vehicle's passengers were travelling from the capital to a funeral in a nearby town when it hit the explosive at Hawa Abdi village, about 19 kilometres from Mogadishu. Britain's Queen Elizabeth has been photographed horse riding in the grounds of Windsor Castle, marking the first time that she has been seen outside since the coronavirus lockdown began. The Queen has been living at Windsor Castle during lockdown with her 98-year-old husband, Prince Philip. From there, she has issued a number of rallying messages to the nation, including televised addresses that have been a rarity during her 68-year reign. And finally, the Zimbabwean film Cook-Off, a romance about a struggling mother who finds love during a cooking competition, has premiered on Netflix. The makers of the film hope that this debut will propel Zimbabwe's small film sector to global audiences. The film's producer said that Zimbabwe often grabs headlines for its economic difficulties and political crises, but hopes that this film will help to project a different image to international audiences. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Time now for some sports news. Manchester United FC manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has thanked China's Shanghai Shenhua for allowing Nigeria's Odion Ighalo to remain with the club longer than previously agreed, and that will last until January the 31st, 2021. Now, Ighalo's initial loan deal was due to expire on May the 31st, but today Man United reached an agreement to extend the Nigerian's loan deal. Super Eagles technical advisor Gennett Rowe has provided clarity on the issue of featuring home-based players as a condition in his renewed contract. Coach Rowe, a guest on Channel Sports this morning, confirms that only players who meet the criteria for selection will make the team. Spanish giants Real Madrid FC will play their remaining 6 home games at the 6,000 capacity Estadio Alfredo Di Stefano Stadium, used by their reserve Real Madrid side, the Real Madrid Castilla. A league source confirmed that the 13-time European champions are currently renovating their Santiago Bernabeu home. A 2-time Wimbledon champion Petra Kvitova says winning an all-Czech exhibition tournament last week was a different experience for her because it felt weird to play in the absence of fans. While playing in the presence of fans remains Kvitova's preference, she believes players will learn to adapt to the situation. And that's a wrap on sports news.
Thanks a lot, Ayotunde. And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari today gave approval for the easing of restrictions on religious gatherings effective from tomorrow, while schools are to remain shut, with the curfew now starting from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks a lot for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Do stay safe out there, and good night.